Wreckfest 2 Update 7. Is it a good update? What's fixed? What isn't fixed? Where is Wreckfest 2 going? And there's some really surprising things in this game that I need to tell you about. But before I do, join the 100,000 other subscribers that have yet to unsubscribe by subscribing so you can then unsubscribe. Clicking the like button doesn't do anything at all other than indicate that you have poor taste. And, as always, thank you to all our Patreon members. We've got force feedback profiles and useful stuff on our Patreon. Super chatters, donors, members, and everybody that supports us. Even those people on Twitch. Yes, we do live stream on Twitch as well. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So it's all your fault. If you don't like this video or content, blame those people, not me. Don't blame me, I'm innocent. As always, we're going to start with the positives here, and the biggest positive is Wreckfest 2 is probably one of the most fun games that you can play at this point in time. I always find myself dying of laughter every time we play it, and this new update has further improved on what was already an awesome early access. As you can see, the biggest improvement is the inclusion of this car that lacks a rear end. It's perfect, 100% open diff, amazing low and very stiff suspension because the rear of the car is literally grating along the ground. And also, you now have the ability to be ejected from the vehicle when you crash or crash into other people, which makes this car incredibly good fun for doing destruction derby deathmatch mode. There goes a driver, or just doing racing. Because it's obviously front wheel drive, I mean it literally only has front wheels, it's also super interesting to drive this car because you have this super loose rear, but you can then use the power to stabilise the car and do these kind of weird two front wheel drive only drifts. So it's absolutely amazing to drive through longer corners and do oval racing with. Surprisingly good force feedback as well, and surprisingly controllable. It's somewhat reminiscent of the Clio Cup in Project Cars 2. But really good fun. Super good fun. Absolutely amazing vehicle to be added to Wreckfest 2. Which now, I'm going to have to start calling this a simulator because they've also added in Wreckfest 2 way more tuning options and also polished the physics up even more to the point where this is starting to drive, or really does drive, like a legitimate off-road banger simulator. And I think this is what's turning out to be the defining aspect of Wreckfest 2 compared to the old Flat Out games, some of them not done by Bugbear, but Flat Out and Wreckfest 1. I think those were trying to be absolute pure arcade games and sort of SimKD, whereas this is much more on the realistic side of physics. I still feel like there's some stuff they've put in there to make the cars more controllable, more forgiving, the design of the damage, the way your car reacts to being hit and stuff. There's a lot of things in this that are designed for good gameplay as opposed to absolute realism. But the core driving, the force feedback feel, the nature of the handling, the response of the vehicle to your input is very much more on the simulator side. If I was ever going to do some destruction derby driving in real life, this would probably be one of the better games to go for. It's a sort of close call between this and Beam, but I think in some ways this actually has a better tire model on the tarmac than Beam. Beam, I think, does sort of 4x4, crazy vehicle, off-road handling a bit better. It's a bit snappier, but yeah, you know, this is definitely going more in the simulator direction, whilst still being totally playable with the gamepad, totally controllable, bloody fantastic. I've been playing quite a bit of Forza Horizon 6, and this is so much better than that in terms of force feedback, car dynamics, realism, whilst also still being very controllable with the gamepad. This beats out Forza. I wouldn't say, though, that this sort of beats out your RBRs for off-road driving or your AC for tarmac driving. But it's its own game, and it's phenomenal to drive. Now, as I say, they've also added in all the upgrade options for the limited slip diff, suspension, you can choose the brake bias, and their initial sort of car upgrade system is gone. And that means that you can then dial the cars in a lot more and have much more granularity over how you upgrade the vehicles. I wouldn't worry too much though. If you're not into the sim thing, the bog standard vehicles and the base setups are really quite good and quite neutral, so you can just drive the basic things without messing with stuff and have good fun. But if you like that tweaking and tuning thing, it looks like they're going to have a really good solid tuning and upgrade system in the final version of this game. Of course, right now that whole system is like early access. It's all open. You can just mess around with it and see how it affects things. But it looks really, really promising for where this can go in the future. And if they open this up for modding, it looks really promising. Like, I want to do some like proper rally in this, or rallycross. I know this is about destruction derby and banger racing, but I'd love to drive like an actual super tight responsive car in this, because I think it'd be really fun. And I also think having those basic car setup options makes that kind of stuff fun as well. But really great having those options added. Now, perhaps a big thing for a lot of people, game performance has been further improved. Game seems to run even better than it did with the previous update. We didn't have any crashes, and the frame rate has been really stable for us, even when we turned DLSS off and we just ran with 4x MSAA. I have to say as well, the game just looks so much crisper and nicer without DLAA. Obviously, if you've got DLSS or you've got a slower computer and you want to take advantage of DLSS, it's quite good, it's nice to have, but the game now just seems to run more consistently. So if you don't use DLAA and you like the traditional types of anti-aliasing, you can fall back on them with it running seemingly pretty solid. Obviously I'm on an insane system, but even on my insane system I tend to notice when games have optimization issues with frame timing. This just seemed to be really, really quite consistent. You can see actually the bar at the top of the screen. That's the Steam performance graph. It's built into Steam. Just enable it, and then you can set a hotkey to enable it. But if you look at the green line next to the FPS gauge to the right, that's always at the top and always green. So it's never getting any drops. If you get 1% loads or drops, you'll see red lines on them. That's very common for a lot of games. But this, when a game is running totally solid, it'll be a solid green bar, and that's what this is. Absolutely phenomenal. So I think the improvements they've done will have quite a big impact on those people that were having performance issues before, or people on slower systems. Not quite sure if this kind of game could run on a Steam Deck, but we'll have to give that a test, because maybe it might actually be getting towards that point. Now, before I move on to some of the new content, also have to say the way the cars damage and the contacts and the way you give out damage seems to work even better than it did before now. So when you do the destruction derby mode, it feels a little bit more consistent in terms of when you hit people, who gets the damage and where it damages their vehicle, and also how the vehicles deform. They seem to deform slightly better and more nuanced. Again, I don't know how they keep improving these things, but each time they do an update, it just feels like a more refined game, despite it already being way more refined than many other titles out there. So really nice under the hood technical improvements. And I have to say, I don't know if it was in this update or the last one, I've just not noticed it. Some of the cars, some of the newer cars as well, have really good engine sounds. And we were playing it, live streaming it. We're like, oh my god, this car sounds phenomenal. We're revving the engine and just driving it. It just sounds so detailed and crisp, with a really good sense of like transmission noise, engine note. It doesn't feel particularly synthetic. Bloody good. It's like better than many simulators in audio. You know, sort of like dirt rally levels of audio. These are not high performance cars, so they sound how you'd expect these types of cars to sound. But it's really satisfying, the engine note that you get from this and the audio. So just had to throw that in there, because I noticed this version of the game, it seemed to sound even better than before. Now, I know we've been way too positive, but this is literally the best game you can get, effectively. Just look at all that grass. Another thing we have to point out is the AI in this. They've now added the ability for AI to do head-on races without them just driving into each other like pigeons that are blindfolded. The AI in this is really fun to race. So if you don't have any friends, which no sim racers do, obviously, you can befriend the artificial intelligence and then murder them with your vehicle. And you'll have really compelling races in this, really good battles, be that Destruction Derby or proper racing. It is somewhat amusing to me that the AI in this is absolutely on another level to Forza Horizon 6, which is a £70, £100 game, and then you can play this and race this with the off-road driving in this, and it's on another level. It's genuinely fun to race the AI in this. Some of the best AI that are currently in racing games. Some of that's because it's sliding around and you can have contact, but who cares? It works and it's fun to race against. Bloody amazing job. Now, in terms of new content, we have 3 new cars. The cut-in-half car. Is it a car with only 2 wheels? Technically a motorbike. You've got the European wagon and a hatchback that looks a bit like a Volvo, along with a new track called... It's a US-based racing venue with 3 layouts, Mora Raceway. And you guessed it, it's bloody fantastic. It's a really nice racetrack. It's a little bit flat, could do with a bit more hills maybe, but really nice cambered road, corners, and really nice corner radiuses for you to actually appreciate the new tyre model changes on the tarmac and drive more precisely if you were doing serious racing on this and not crashing into people, but just nice track racing. This track is absolutely fantastic. One of the layouts is also just a really big oval, so we've now got a few ovals in this title, which I find lend themselves really well to the destruction driving. Sometimes just having a simple track allows you to then focus on crashing into people or just doing oval racing, whereas a complex road track, a lot of the other tracks in the game have been quite small dirt tracks, which are very technical to drive, which in some ways can get in the way of crashing into people. So there's a really good range of tracks in this, and this new track, as I say, is absolutely fantastic. Really fun to hold drifts through a lot of the corners. And just like the other tracks, the detail of the textures for the curbing, the parallax maps of the dirts, the hedges, the hills in the distance, the tyres that can go flying everywhere. It's just really fantastic quality. It looks really, really good. I've heard some people say they don't think the game looks that good, and I don't know what's going on with them. Maybe they're not playing in higher resolutions. Maybe they're blind or something. It's possible, because to me this game looks absolutely phenomenal whilst also running well. Maybe they're just not paying attention as it goes on his side into the wall. Maybe they're not paying attention to the sheer quality of the grass and hedges which you can drive into. I think a lot of people don't appreciate grass and hedges as much as they really should do. So, all in all, bloody fantastic update to an early access game. This is how early access should be done. Now, those were all positive points. We do need to be negative. I can't be entirely positive through a whole video. And what I need to say in terms of negativity, we had to rebind all our controls, which was a real pain in the ass. Also, binding the wheel is a little bit janky at first, and there's also a default dead zone, or there was when I went through the settings. So it's a little bit of a pain to bind the wheel. If you guys ask in the comment section, I'll do a force feedback guide for this game, and I'll also slap it on our Patreon for free, because the force feedback's a bit weird to set up. But yeah, that's a bit annoying, that how you have to bind stuff and the fact that you need to rebind things. But it does all work once you get it set up. It's just a bit of a pain in the arse and a bit of a fiddle. What I also find as well, though they've updated the multiplayer menu, there still seems to be some weird issues with bots adding themselves and it being a little bit annoying to remove them, and the automatic countdown rolling on by itself, and then not being able to fully control, as far as I can see from just the admin mode on the server, not being able to force everyone to the same car very easily, because it's really fun to force people to all the same car rather than get them to agree to it, and then also being able to force specific bops or force a car that's already got certain setups on it. That would be really nice to be able to do that kind of stuff in the multiplayer. I don't know if that will come in the future, but yeah, the multiplayer menu stuff, it works, it's fine for the type of game it is, but there definitely could be a lot more polish on that side of things. Graphically as well, what with this game running so well, I would like to be able to turn things up even higher. So, for example, you do notice, even with this is everything on maximum, some tracks the grass still has a bit of pop-up or detail pop-up. The highest setting should basically make it that the grass is more detailed even further into the distance. Also notice stuff like the shadows, it's like self-shadowing, ambient occlusion shadows for the cockpits and things. That could actually be even higher quality or have a higher quality setting, because you notice it's not as quality as it could be if you've got a super duper high-end system. So I think a bunch of the graphic settings on this could actually do with having even higher settings for those of us that have wasted far too much money on our computer. Now, I'll also say a ginormous elephant in the room here, and you all can agree in the comment section. Please type in the comments, Bugbear, please support VR. Please, please, please support VR. Type it in the comments, guys, so they see it, hopefully. But this game needs VR support. Like, I get it. They probably don't want to do full VR support, and the priority is getting this polished and ready as a console release and doing the basics. That's where the majority of money is, and that makes perfect sense. But it would be amazing if they just, even initially, just did a beta, not even official VR support, just like a sort of experimental VR mode, so that people with VR headsets could play this in VR, like how old driving games initially started to do VR support. That would be bloody amazing, because you play this and you're like, oh my god, this would be one of the best VR driving games possible. Flat Out 4, again, that wasn't developed by Bugbear, but it's based on the same IP, but not Bugbear. That just had a VR version come out, and everyone's absolutely loving it, and it's doing really well. It's doing surprisingly well as a VR game. So you could really, Bugbear could really capitalise on the hype for that and draw it over to this, and I think you would actually get quite a few additional people getting this just to play it in VR. Probably not a huge amount, but it was just such a shame, guys, because it's so good that how this is. It'd be so good in VR, especially now they've already added, thanks for them doing this, listening to my complaints, they've added the camera filter in Locked Horizon, and that works really, really well. So it's in a good position for VR, but the lack of it is a little bit sad. Yeah, but no VR, no buy. I've already bought it. Oh. Now, I will also say as well, though I love the tuning stuff, I think things like brake bias probably shouldn't be in tuning and should just be available to the cars as a control option, and maybe be able to be changed whilst you're driving. I know that kind of goes away from what they're trying to do with the game, but what I find is that because of sim racing equipment and gamepads and everything, brake bias tends to be more of a thing that's just a fundamental input and offsets the realities of how you don't feel stuff in simulators, really. So just being able to change it on the fly and it being active on all the cars would really, really help and just make things more approachable. I think that's a reasonable compromise. I definitely think all the other stuff like diff settings and springs and all those other adjustments, that's great to have those as upgrades. But maybe like brake bias is just there, and maybe adjustable on the fly, I think would be really, really nice as an absolute default unlocked feature. That's just me, though. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know what you guys in the comment section feel and think about that. Now, also, we're getting all the complaints in here. I will say as well, I still think with the force feedback, though it's great for like realistic feel, and especially like the overall forces for self-aligning and correcting the car, they definitely need to add in a slider and option for texture, like off-road texture, more vibrational stuff, with an ability to choose the strength of that, but also the harshness of it. So stuff like tarmac should have like a higher frequency type of vibration, or a high frequency feel for the road surface coming through, and then dirt and stuff should have a lower frequency rumble there, and different surfaces accordingly. Now those might need to be done as canned effects as opposed to being driven from the physics. The physics driven stuff's absolutely fantastic, but it's just very subtle even on a high-end wheel, relative to the overall torque feel of the force feedback. Now that makes sense from a realistic perspective. I mean, these cars are pretty sloppy cars with tons of suspension, and it's, you know, you wouldn't expect to have the most dialed in of force feedback, but there's just a lot of detail there that is not coming through on wheels. And I know the details there because I've got a belt tensioner, and you can really feel it nicely through a belt tensioner, and if someone had a motion rig, it would feel absolutely fantastic. So I just think it's nice to give those options where possible, even if it involves a bit of canned effect options, to players using just a steering wheel, because there's a lot of people that for them makes it, that's what they notice with force feedback. It's actually kind of ironic. This is absolutely the opposite issue that the vast majority of games have. The vast majority of games have too much pointless rumble noise and haptics, which are of no value to drive from, and then no actual good force feedback for the load of the tyres. Whereas this game is pretty much all really good force feedback. But there you go. I would also say as well, they probably could do with adjusting things for the good force feedback and that self-aligning and suspension tugging, in that you're losing the lower granular loading of the tyres if you turn the force feedback down. But you do have to turn the force feedback down because otherwise the big jolts are absolutely mental. So having some way of adjusting the force feedback curve, or maybe them doing it a bit so that the basic grip of the tyre is more pronounced and big jolts and landings are less pronounced, would go a long way to making you feel the cars and feel more connected without having to go crazy on your wheelbase settings. This game's force feedback can be really quite brutal if you run it quite high. But yeah, for the type of game it is, it's actually really quite decent, the force feedback as it is and how it works. We will do a force feedback setting guide. Now lastly, the biggest problem I have with this game, and this is probably the most important one, is that every time I play it, I get exhausted from laughing too much. I can only stream this for like 4 hours. And we had COVID a few weeks ago, and I had to stop streaming this because my lungs were hurting from laughing. And it's just such a ridiculous game and so fun. And every time I load it up, it just takes a physical toll on me. So if they could make it less hilarious, that would actually be helpful to my physical health. But yeah, I mean, absolutely love this. It's bloody what gaming needs. If only more video games were like this, like just humorous and fun, just fun. When I play this game, I feel like I've gone back to the 90s when games were actually more games. There are really good games now, but you know, you can just see they've designed stuff behind what's a funny thing to do. The developer isn't just making a totally bland corporate product. Absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely love it. And then also, really, as a bit of a sim racer, I love that this then does all that, but with whoa and run over. Look at that. I love it that they do all this, but with the sim stuff and all the sim support. It's like they took the best of 90s gaming and moved it into the future, taking advantage of everything. It's what we want. Bloody hell, so good. So if you haven't got this, you're an idiot. Go and get it straight away. We'll do more racing with this, with subscribers. The update was superb. Can't wait for the next update. We're just going to keep playing this. Keep in mind, though, it is still early access. It's not fully fledged, single player. If you want to play through something like this, get Wreckfest, get Flat Out 4 for VR. That's for VR if you want a similar game in VR. It just came out recently from 2D to VR, Pancake to VR Studios, I don't know. Or get Wreckfest 1 if you've not got that and you can play through that. Really nice. But this is worth getting, and just especially doing multiplayer or doing AI races, really good fun. So that's it, guys. That's my rundown for this video. I'm sorry it was too positive. Bugbear I'm in love with them. I'm absolutely in love with them. Please put VR in the game. Please put VR in the game. Till the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. Happy tea drinking. Take care and goodbye.